In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a Bible in an edition that is often very popular with the audience because it is a note-taking Bible. People love to have a Bible that has ample room and even lines for taking notes. I'm not one of those people, but I know a lot of you out there are, and one of those people happens to be my wife. She loves this kind of Bible, and I know at least one of my children love this kind of Bible too. So this particular one is in the CSB. I'd like to thank Lifeway for sending me this for review. And they do have different cover options. So if you don't particularly prefer this, there are some other great options, but I love the look of this. This is brown leather touch over board. So it has a very, I think, just a really beautiful look to it. It comes in this slip case. You can just slip it right in there. It's a very sturdy box. And before I show you the Bible in more detail, I'll look at the back of the box. But I mean, just looking at that cover, I love this type of cover. I think it looks really good. And here again, when you look at this box on the back, it tells you about this Bible. And it does have a 9-point size type. We'll take a look at that. You'll see some other features here. The size of the page, 7 1/4 by 9 inches for the page size. It is a Smyth-sewn binding. And it says 2-inch line top and edge margin on every page for journaling and note-taking. So that's an overview of the Bible. It doesn't say the retail price on this, but I can put that up on the screen so you see what the retail price is. And of course, you usually can get Bibles a little bit cheaper than the retail price online. I'll leave a link to the product if you are interested in purchasing this Bible. But let's take a look at it in more detail. Again, that cover, I just think it has a really elegant look to it. Look at the spine, it's blind stamped. So to me, this is very subtle, stately. And then the page edges are gold. Has really kind of a regal classic look, I guess you could say. And yet modern too. The printing on the side there has a little bit, to me, more of a modern look to it. So kind of a blend of the old and the new. And it did say it has ribbon markers, so I'll get those out for you to see. So the ribbon markers, there's 2 of them. They're narrow and straight cut. I do think that they are double-sided, so they do have that sheen on both sides. And I think they look very nice, very handsome with this Bible. You notice too, the front does have that nice subtle cross design. So personally, I like this cover a lot. I like the look of it, but I also like that it's hardcover. I think some of the covers are more flexible. Some of the other covers are more flexible than this. But to me, if you're writing in it, it can be nice to have a hardcover. Plus, hardcovers are just a nice option to add variety to different kinds of Bibles that you might have. This does have a paper paste down inside, a presentation page on some cardstock paper. You can see the color of this paper, I think it's showing up on camera fairly well, is going to be more of an off-white as opposed to a bright white that you see here on the back of the cardstock end sheet. And the paper in this is going to be a little bit more of a lighter, an off-white paper. I'll also show what the GSM of this paper is, just so you can see what kind of paper they have in here. And it looks and feels very nice. Looking at the copyright page here, copyright 2024, which is the same year I'm recording this. So this is a new edition that they're offering. It's the Expanded Reference Edition, the Note-Taking Bible. And it is the 2020 text edition of the CSB. They have the table of contents, introduction to the Christian Standard Bible, Old Testament title page, and getting in here, you can see Very nicely designed. Again, this is a 9-point size type for the biblical text. The verse numbers are on the left margin of each verse, and they're bold. It's verse by verse format. So not only is that nice just to separate the verses out, maybe for teaching purposes or just maybe to help you just see the information separated out, but if you're journaling, for some people, I think having that verse by verse, that might really appeal to them, just to be able to know these notes are correlating with this verse, easy to find the verse and the notes that go with it. Again, you have 2-inch margins, is what they said on the top and on the sides. And the lines, let's see, on the top they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines that are full lines on the top, and then quite a few other lines on the side margin, outside margin. At the bottom of the page, you do have translator notes at the very bottom, and then you have cross references on the bottom right-hand corner of the 2 columns. So I think you're going to see that on every page. Cross references over here. Translator notes at the very bottom. So it really looks like the verse-by-verse format that I've been seeing in other CSB Bibles. But I know the journaling Bibles are very popular among a lot of people, and so I'm glad they're offering this particular format, the verse-by-verse, with a journaling edition. Let's take a look at the poetry section. You see here as we're looking at poetry, it is not formatted any differently than the rest of the Bible. So there's no stanza setting, but poetry tends to be verse by verse in terms of how it's structured. So it's kind of poetic already. But some verse by verse editions do actually have the stanza settings. Not this one though. And then as we continue on, we'll get to the New Testament. Getting into the New Testament, you'll have the New Testament title page. And the beginning of the New Testament here, again, just really nice format. What you will see with this is it is a black letter text, and then the typical features of the Christian Standard Bible has the Old Testament quotes that are in the New Testament in bold print. Very easy to find where the Old Testament quotes are. And I think you will see at the end of each Old Testament quote a reference to tell you where it's coming from in the Old Testament. So that's very nice. Reference marker at the end of each quote from the Old Testament. And the paper to me, I would think is very nice to write on. It's not the thickest paper. I'm not going to say it's the thickest, but it doesn't feel cheap. It actually seems like a pretty nice paper. So with what they chose for this, I think it was a balance of getting something heavy enough to write on, but not getting too bulky. Because as you can see here, we're already at page 1178 in the book of Romans. So this is going to have a lot of pages. So if they used really thick paper, this would just be a huge Bible. The Bible text ends on page 1313. So you do have cross references. I mean, it really is kind of a nice Bible for study purposes. It is a little bit on the larger side. I will show you the measurements in a second, but you have plenty of information in here as far as the Bible text and cross references and footnotes, and then all that room for writing. So great for study purposes, devotional purposes. They give you a Bible reading plan. You can check off the boxes for that. You have the CSB Concordance, which you'll see in a lot of CSB Bibles. It's a pretty good concordance. And then after that, you've got the maps. Everything that's in the Bible here is like on this off-white, kind of yellowish looking paper. Even the maps, although it is cardstock off-white paper. And when I say off-white, I always put my disclaimer, that's to the best of my knowledge what I would call it. Some of you color experts out there might correct me, but it is definitely not the bright white. It looks more yellowish to me. I think you can see that. But the measurements of this, let's take a look at that. You're looking at about 9¼ inches tall by about 7½ inches wide and just about 1.5 inches thick. Maybe a little bit more than 1.5 inches, but right around there in thickness. So, I mean, what you have here is actually not a huge Bible. So I think they made a good call on the paper itself. You can decide that for yourself, but I think, you know, you want something that isn't necessarily going to be the lightest paper. So it's not a thin line Bible, but it's not so thick and heavy either, which some wide margin Bibles can become very hefty. So it's kind of a balance there. And yet I think the paper is seems to have a nice quality to it, in my opinion. And I actually like the color of this. And so I don't know how it's showing up exactly on camera, but I think I've shown you just some comparisons with like a brighter white there. And you can see that's bright white, and then it really brings out kind of that yellow tint to this. That being said, it's not a bright yellow in person. So I think the camera is giving it a fairly accurate look here. That's again the back of the box, and that's a look at the Note-Taking Bible. Wonderful new edition available from the publishers of the CSB Christian Standard Bible. Fantastic translation. If you have any questions or comments about this Bible, I'd love to see that in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching this review, brought to you from a First Perspective.